Those involved in the care and monitoring of Southport killer fundamentally failed to appreciate the evident high level of danger he posed, leading to an act of chilling brutality, an inquiry has found. Alex Rudakabana, 19, was consistently passed between organisations with disturbing lack of clarity as to who, if anyone, was the lead in ensuring the risk he posed was communicated. What were the 5 key findings in the Southport inquiry Phase 1 report? An attack on innocent children attending a dance class in Southport could and should have been stopped if the killer's parents and state agencies had acted sooner. The inquiry into the atrocity has concluded. Also, Keir Starmer has said the UK must meet the conflict in the Middle East calmly but with strength after he refused to support Donald Trump's blockade of Iranian ports. The US president threatened to stop tankers from entering or leaving the key oil and gas shipping lane from 3 p.m. on Monday in response to the failure of talks with Iran, a move that has again caused global prices to spike. More than 100 EasyJet passengers missed flights in Manchester after new EU border control checks. Passengers were due to depart on Sunday but faced queues of up to 3 hours at Milan's Linate airport because of new border control checks.
This is STV News at 10 with Stephen Woolridge.
Good evening. Those involved in the care and monitoring of the Southport killer fundamentally failed to appreciate the evident high level of danger he posed, leading to an act of chilling brutality, an inquiry has found. Axel Rudakabana, 19, was consistently passed between organisations with a disturbing lack of clarity as to who, if anyone, was the lead, ensuring the risk he posed was communicated. The parents of the teenager, who was jailed for a minimum of 52 years, also had an irresponsible and harmful attitude to sharing information, meaning they did not do what they morally ought to have done and report the clear escalation in risk. All this, the report said, meant his attack on a children's dance class could and should have been prevented. Well, journalist Emma Sweeney is in Liverpool Town Hall as she reports.
Well, this report out today is the culmination of many months of analysis into exactly how, in the summer of 2024, Axel Rudakabana was able to commit mass murder. In other words, this is the accountability part of this inquiry and its conclusions. Well, multiple agencies failed time and time again to assess and respond to the high risks posed by this individual. The words fail or failed appear hundreds of times in this document. There was a failure to take ownership over the risks posed. There was a failure to oversee and intervene in his online behaviours. There was a moral failure by the perpetrator's parents to stand up to their son and to set boundaries. These are some of the failures in this report, but this is not just a report pointing out what went wrong. It is also a report that is looking into recommendations. Some of those recommendations are urgent, others will take more long-term structural reform.
While the attack on innocent children attending a dance class in Southport could and should have been stopped if the killer's parents and state agencies had acted sooner, the inquiry into the atrocity has concluded. Its chair, Sir Adrian Fulford, has made 67 recommendations in a 700-page report into the attack by 17-year-old Axel Rudakabana in July 2024. The report, following a 9-week public inquiry at Liverpool Town Hall in 2025, focuses criticism on a number of state agencies, along with the parents of the killer, referred to AR throughout the inquiry. Alice da Silva, Aguirre, 9, BB King, 6, and Elsie Stancombe, 7, were murdered when AR entered the Taylor Swift themed dance workshop in the Hart Space, Southport, with an armed knife. The killer, then 17, also attempted to murder 8 other children, who cannot be named for legal reasons: class instructor Leanne Lucas and businessman John Hayes. Sir Adrian said his 2 principal conclusions were that AR's parents were at fault in not reporting his escalating behaviour, and state agencies, including those in health, education and policing, failed to manage the risk the teenager clearly represented. Had they done so, Sir Adrian said it was highly likely the attack would not have occurred. History simply would have taken a different course, he said. As I have already indicated, but I repeat, this terrible event could have been and should have been prevented. While the sole immediate cause of death was unlawful killing by the perpetrator, the attack that led to the deaths was preventable. Next this evening, Keir Starmer has said the UK must meet the conflict in the Middle East calmly but with strength, after he refused to support Donald Trump's blockade of Iranian ports. The US President threatened to stop tankers from entering or leaving the key oil and gas shipping lane from 3 p.m. on Monday in response to the failure of talks with Iran, a move that has again caused global prices to spike. Speaking after the US blockade began, Starmer repeated his calls to fully reopen the strait, which has been effectively shut by Iran in response to US-Israeli bombing campaign, stressing he would not allow the UK to be dragged into the war. Addressing the Commons on Monday, the Prime Minister said, "As the Middle East conflict shows, once more, the world in which we live has utterly changed. It is more volatile and insecure than at any period in my lifetime, and we must rise to meet it calmly, but with strength. This is exactly what we're doing at home and abroad. We are strengthening our security, taking control of our future, and building a Britain that is fair for all." He added, "My guide from the start of this conflict has always been our national interest, and that is why we are working now to restore freedom of navigation in the Middle East, because that is squarely in our national interest." As the fallout on global economy continued, Starmer said the UK's response would evolve a closer economic relationship with European governments. The Prime Minister told the Commons, Britain has been buffeted by crises for decades now, from the 2008 financial crash, through austerity, through Brexit, through COVID, the war that still rages in Ukraine, and the disastrous premiership of former Prime Minister Liz Truss. The response each time has been to try to return that status quo, a status quo that manifestly failed working people who saw their living standards flatline and their public services decimated. So this time, Britain's response must and will be different to reflect the changing world that we live in. He continued, "And the opportunities we now have to strengthen our security and cut the cost of living are simply too big to ignore." President Trump had initially threatened to blockade any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz in a post on Truth Social. Starmer was keen to stress, "My decision has been very clear that whatever the pressure, and there's been some considerable pressure, we're not getting dragged into the war. The UK is not getting dragged in. This is not in our national interest because I'm not going to act unless there's a clear, lawful basis and clear, thought-through plan. And finally, more than 100 passengers were left stranded in Milan after an EasyJet flight to Manchester was delayed after taking off due to long queues at passport control. Passengers were due to depart on Sunday but faced queues of up to 3 hours at Milan's airport because of new border control checks. The airline held the flight for nearly an hour to allow passengers extra time, but eventually it had to depart due to crew members reaching their safety regulated operating hours. A total of 122 passengers did not make the flight. EasyJet said it was trying to support passengers, but that the situation was outside of our control. Customers who missed the flight have been offered a free flight transfer, according to the airline. It comes after the European Union implemented new border control checks, meaning travellers have to register their biometric details. Emily Benn told Good Morning Britain, "We've got to the airport with 3 hours to spare yesterday. The gate came up, we went straight to the gate. We were queuing for 2.5 hours. And then a guy came through and said, 'Your flight gone.' We've had no communication with EasyJet themselves, and we basically managed to book a flight to Gatwick Airport tonight." The new entry-exit system was implemented across the EU airports and ports last week, meaning British travellers are no longer required to have their passports stamped. Instead, a digital biometric system has been introduced. Until now, many airports were effectively running a double system, with both passport stamps being taken and new biometrics digital EES system also being carried out. Travel expert Simon Cadler has warned that the delay to Milan could be a sign of what is to come. The fear is that things could get worse before they get better. We really need urgent action from the European Union, and the British government should really be leading that campaign, he told GMB. In a statement to STV News, EasyJet said, due to delays in EES processing by border authorities, some passengers departing from Milan yesterday experienced very long waiting times at passport control. We held flight EJU 5420 from Milan to Manchester for nearly an hour to give passengers extra time, but it had to then depart due to crew reaching their safety regulated operating hours. Customers who missed the flight have been offered a free flight transfer. And that is it for News at 10. Good night.